WABC. Moses, you're on. Go ahead. What's on your mind?
Hello,
Moses, fire away. Go ahead. Fire away. You're on the radio. Go ahead, Moses.
The president's doing a great job. You know, he
All right, you can make blanket statements like that. The president has melted our borders down and turned the other cheek with regard to illegal swarming over the border. What are you talking about?
What do you want them to do? You're such an alarmist. Do you want them to build a defensive rampart like the Berlin Wall, which didn't work?
Yes, I want a wall between America and Mexico. What do you want, an illegal shooting you or raping your girlfriend?
Irrespective of whether the immigration status is still a crime. You can't indict a whole group of people because one person commits a crime.
Well, who's indicting a whole group of people? I'm indicting our politicians for not following immigration law. What are you talking about?
That's a different argument. You're saying the entire city of San Francisco is corrupt. It's not true. That's a blanket.
It is corrupt. It's the most corrupt city in America. It's more corrupt than New Orleans. I stand by those words. Take a look at the city. Look at the corruption. Take a look at the streets. Take a look at the bums in the streets. Ask where the billions of dollars are going. What do you mean? That is corruption, is it not?
It's corruption based upon capitalistic principles.
Oh, no, now you're switching it now. Now you want to give me a communist speech. Why don't you get a soapbox and go down to Union Square like your grandfather did when he just got off the boat from Minsk?
Understand, borders, language, and culture. This is the exact argument they use against Jews around the world.
Here we go again. It's always the Jews, isn't it? Are you Jewish, Moses?
Ostensibly. But
what do you mean ostensibly? Wait a minute. Are you Jewish? I'm asking you. Are you of Jewish heritage?
Yes.
Yes or no? I don't understand. You're not answering a simple question.
I am.
You just brought up Jews. Are you Jewish or not?
Yes.
You are. So why do you take the side of illegal aliens instead of your home country? Tell me where that comes from.
Because as a Jew, we have compassion for people all around.
Why don't you have compassion for the country that saved you from Hitler?
Compassion, but remember,
Why don't you have compassion for the soldiers who saved the Jews in the gas chambers?
We didn't fight World War II to liberate any Jews in World War II. That was a byproduct.
Oh, you are really a sick puppy.
I'm not.
You are a true America hater, aren't you?
I'm not an America hater.
You are a disgrace to the Jewish people. Let me tell you something. You didn't do the Jewish people a favor in coming on this show and disgracing yourself like this.
I disgrace myself because I don't go with this nationalist nonsense.
So you hate the nation, in other words. You're an internationalist. Is that what you're saying?
Not that I'm an internationalist. In New York, we're a sanctuary city as well. It's because we want people are going to come here whether we want them or not. We want to help.
What do you mean they're going to come here whether you want them or not? Of course that's nonsense. They're coming there because there's freebies for them. What are you talking about? Where do you think all the welfare goes?
Welfare goes.
By the way, Moses, I know you're a brilliant man, probably as smart as Einstein, but tell me what % of the population in our prisons consists of illegal aliens who have committed felonies. Do you know the answer?
I couldn't tell you because most statistics are made up on the spot.
Moses, you think you're glib, but you're not in a club on Houston Street right now shooting your mouth off after drinking too much and smoking a joint. The fact is there's a statistic. It's about 33%. 1 out of 3 prisoners in our federal jails, federal prisons, are here because they committed a felony other than an immigration crime. Don't tell me they all come here to work and they're all so wonderful. That's nonsense.
They are wonderful. This makes our country great. They wind up in...
All right, you just want to get me agitated, and that's because your father wasn't strong enough to stand up to you, so you became a loudmouth who just shoots his mouth off to antagonize men who are much smarter than yourself. Is there anything intelligent you'd like to say before I hang up on you?
I want you to have more compassion for the average person.
I don't want to have more compassion for criminals. Why don't you have compassion?
It's not.
Why don't you fly out to San Francisco and hold Mr. Sanchez's hand? Why don't you start a defense fund for Mr. Sanchez and say he was picked on by right-wingers? Why don't you do that, Moses?
I'm not justifying Mr. Sanchez in any extent, but the right-wing aspect...
No, wait a minute. Why don't you fly to San Francisco, and why don't you ask to see Mr. Lopez Sanchez and ask if you can start a defense fund for Lopez Sanchez?
The problem that you don't want to talk about. Mr. Lopez Sanchez had access to a firearm because of the Second Amendment, which is so sacred to everybody. Why are there so many guns?
It was the Second Amendment, by the way, that saved your sad behind, isn't it? By the way, Mr. Moses, when you come out of a nightclub at 3 a.m. and your life is in danger from a thug, who would you turn to, the ACLU or a cop with a gun?
Look,
what's the matter now, Moses?
The cops...
What's the matter? The Red Sea didn't part for you because suddenly you can't answer the question? Moses, Moses, when did you become gunophobic? What was it in your childhood that scared you from guns? Is it because you're partly suicidal or the medication you're on?
No, there was a lot of killings.
Is it the medication in your psyche that has you fear guns? What do you fear about guns?
Because people get their hands on them, they commit murders like this.
Really? And they don't save lives with guns, Moses?
Don't. The idea that people wouldn't have died of Columbine.
All right, you know, I've had enough of you. Take a walk. Go get a corned beef at Katz's. Do me a favor, or a tofu sandwich at Katz's. Never call the show again. You just lowered the IQ of the entire show. You know, when guys like him call, he's just having fun. His friends are probably sitting around. Let me call that right-winger and have a... You know what? You got nowhere, Moses. All you did was embarrass the Jewish people. You made people think very, very poorly of the Jewish people, Moses. That's all you achieved. This is the savage nation. We are talking about an illegal alien from Mexico who executed a 32-year-old girl in front of her father. And as she lay dying, she said, Daddy, Daddy, save me. That's what just happened 2 blocks from my apartment. That is what we are talking about. And the creep, homicidal maniac or gang member, whatever he may actually be, who did it, Lopez or whatever his name is. He has several aliases, don't you know? Lopez or Sanchez. Lopez says he found the gun under the bench, and of course an idiot like Moses believes that. I don't. How come Moses didn't talk about Lopez Sanchez taking the gun he found under the bench and shooting sea lions, which I don't believe either? I'd like to know why Moses didn't suggest that Lopez Sanchez, as an upstanding citizen of Mexico, didn't call the nearest cop and say, excuse me, but I found the gun under the bench. Why didn't he do that? Why did he pick it up and start shooting it boom, boom, boom at sea lions, Moses? See if you can part the Red Sea of truth, Moses, and maybe when you cleanse the doors of perception, you will see life as it is, infinite. I'll be right back.
Mr. Sanchez, tell me why you're here, and just you can look at me. Okay.
Yes, because when they catch the police in my arrest, the information and
yeah, I know what I'm saying, right? Free welfare, that's all. You came here to work. Yeah, they all come here to work. They're all better than any American. Ask Obama. Nancy Pelosi ought to go wash the blood off his hands. After all, she washed the feet of the children last summer that Obama flooded America with. Do you remember that? How many of those children brought diseases, Moses? You wouldn't know that in the pot haze in which you live, Moses. But I know the statistics, Moses, because I have a PhD in epidemiology, Moses, from a great university, Moses. Many of those children brought in viruses from their country, Moses, and infected children in America, Moses. Some children are in a state of paralysis ever since that previously unseen virus was brought here, Moses. But it didn't make it to your sanctuary city, did it, Moses? You were busy supporting the illegal aliens. You were busy hating the Second Amendment. You were busy hating nationalism. You were busy hating America. By the way, Moses, another factor for you. You say that you're Jewish. Well, let me tell you something. Where did you get the idea that a Jew is supposed to be compassionate above all other people? Where did you get that twisted idea that the religion of Judaism is about compassion and not about the worship of God, Moses? I'll tell you where you got it from. You got it from your foolish liberal parents who raised you not in Judaism, but in liberalism under the guise of Judaism. You represent one of millions of liberal Jews in America who have twisted the whole meaning of the religion itself into thinking you're supposed to be compassionate. Well, fine if you're compassionate, but that's not the core of your religion. In fact, if you read the Old Testament, it's the opposite of compassion. It's all about a very angry God for a very wayward people, Moses. Read the Old Testament sometime when you have a little time. And an illegal alien says, oh, I fell asleep, I was on pills, I found the gun, I was shooting sea lions. I mean, would that pass the first grade? Let's listen to the liar, Mr. Whatever his name is. Listen, play it now.
I say I'm sorry, everybody. So no more play, no more like this, like that, and later.
You won't play with a gun
play?
again? Is that what you said?
Oh,
Yeah.
No, me no use gun again. No, me never.
So you feel sorry for everyone that's been impacted.
Oh, shut up, you
by
reporter, you useless garbage,
the
you.
murder of Kate
Here's the
Steinle.
reporter coaching him to say he's sorry.
Have you ever fired a gun? Have you ever shot?
No,
anyone
me
before?
never fire gun. No, me never see gun before.
No.
No. Me never see
Do you have a
gun.
lawyer? Do you have an attorney?
No.
No. Just an interpreter and a news reporter as my attorney. No, just a stooge from
understand why you're
KGO television who's feeding him lines, that's all. What does he need a lawyer for when he's got a liar? What does he need a lawyer for when he has a liar from KGO TV feeding him lines? Oh, well, you feel sorry? Then the interpreter says, yeah, I feel sorry. Where'd you get the gun? Yeah, right, I got the gun, yeah. That's not the story. That's the cover story. That's the cover story. Look, if I were a homicide detective, I don't know, there must be a few left in San Francisco who know what's going on. They've been muzzled, of course, under this regime in this city, which is, I can't imagine being a cop in this city. Couldn't be a harder job in the universe. Imagine a homicide cop in San Francisco, which I think has one of the highest rates of unsolved homicides in the country. But nevertheless, put that aside. What would a homicide detective who's naturally skeptical think about this story? It's just a bunch of crap. What line would you follow if you were a homicide detective? He was a gang member. I'd follow that line and say he is. I would say if I were a homicide detective, I would investigate. Was he a known gang member? Was he told to go and kill a white woman on the pier in order to earn his bones, in order to be made a member? It has happened before. Don't think this is an invented statement. Everybody knows this has happened in this country. The illegals are running wild in the streets of many cities of this country. And by the way, he was once a resident of Texas. I wonder why he chose to jump the border and come back to San Francisco, because he couldn't be deported. And here's another question. Since I thought that federal law controlled immigration, follow my logic if you can, all of you liberals. I thought that local jurisdictions could not enact immigration laws. Didn't Arizona get overturned by the feds, the corrupt Supreme Court, which said it must be followed by federal law controls immigration? So there's no control of immigration by states or by counties? Then why is San Francisco enacting its own immigration law? Why don't they arrest the people who put this in power? Why don't they immediately detain and arrest the sheriff of San Francisco for violating federal law? I mean, there are laws on the books, and if immigration is controlled by federal law and they're violating federal law, then all city officials who are violating federal law are committing a crime. Doesn't that make sense to you? And let me take it a step further. If San Francisco believes it can create immigration law on its own, then why can't a conservative jurisdiction, whether in California or elsewhere, enact its own immigration law and say we will deport illegal aliens who commit crimes ourselves. We will buy buses and we'll drive them over the border and we'll dump them on the other side of the border because the feds won't do their job. Why can't local jurisdictions do what San Francisco did, and instead of making their cities or towns sanctuary cities, make them deportation cities? If you're committing a crime and you're not a citizen, we will drive you over the border and leave you in the desert because we cannot tolerate crime in our community. And that's what has to happen in this country to teach these liberals a lesson. They've overrun the whole country. They own the media. They own every avenue of discussion, with the rare exception. And so look what has happened now. And I want to talk about that. You believe he found the gun under the bench? You believe he was shooting at sea lions? Where is PETA on this, by the way? He was shooting at sea lions? Huh? They are at war with this country. Obama has flooded 125,000 Africans into St. Paul, Minnesota. Why would he do that? Why would he bring 125,000 Africans to St. Paul, Minnesota, when they don't speak English, they don't know what the culture is, they've never used a toothbrush, they've never used toilet paper? Why would he bring them there? What is he trying to do to this country? Why is he dumping most third worlders in white cities and white communities and white towns? You're telling me this is not a civil war conducted by this monster Frankenstein? You're wrong. So there's a lot to talk about here, and the only one saying it is Donald Trump. And of course he's being smeared by the vermin in the media. That's to be expected. That's all they're capable of, those useless idiots, always on the wrong side of things. And then, of course, there's Romney attacking him, Rubio, the ice cream man, attacking him, Rick Perry attacking him, all of the jerks who would not come on my show. By the way, you know why they wouldn't come on my show? Because they knew where I stood on illegal aliens. And we know what they're worth. You know what they're worth? They're worth zero. They're less than zero. They are less than zero. Romney, Perry, Rubio, I told you who they were. And so the only one who stood up for him is Cruz, to his credit. He would not attack him. Good for him. If you've listened to my show, The Savage Nation, you know the importance I place on the preservation of our borders, language, and culture. And you know that this administration has done more to further the left's war against America by attempting to destroy these three foundation blocks of our republic than any other administration in our history. When I speak to you about protecting our borders, language, and culture, I speak to you as a first-generation American. I am an immigrant son. My ancestors didn't come over on the Mayflower. They came over from Russia in third-class steerage. They worked hard and died young. They learned to speak English, and they learned America's ways. They got on the back of the bus. They didn't demand that they take over the bus and drive it into a wall. They were true American immigrants. But the immigrants of the past are not the same as the immigrants today. I understand that the situation is different now than it was nearly 100 years ago, but the fundamentals of immigration are the same. You come as a guest and then muster up every ounce of compliance and determination you can until you earn your full-time status. This is not the immigration formula under the current administration. Their idea of immigration is to grant amnesty to those who have crossed our borders illegally. The true demagogues are Barack Obama, the Attorney General, the head of ICE, the mayor of San Francisco in this case, the sheriff of San Francisco, the ex-mayor of San Francisco, and all the others, Kamala Harris, who played a role in making this city safe for illegal aliens. They did so for political reasons, in order to maintain power in their office, maintain their office, and maintain power, because they know that the average citizen who works and lives in San Francisco is on to their corruption and their incompetence and wouldn't vote for them. So they imported an entire population of illegals to keep them in power, is my estimation. So who do you blame? Can you blame all the people of Mexico? That would be crazy. That would be like saying all Americans are fat and take pills the way Al Jazeera did. You can't do that. It's not correct. So we have to stay focused on who did this to us and try our best to unravel the sanctuary city policy, not only in San Francisco. I have a list of all the major cities that are sanctuary cities, because most of these, like Detroit, are obviously sanctuary cities because they need them as voters. You understand that? How do you think a communist like de Blasio in New York seized power? Through the illegal alien vote, through the unions. That's how. So the fact of the matter is, all we can do is point it out and talk about it. Listen, this whole topic that we're talking about is a topic I've been talking about for 21 years. We all heard the story by now. Even the most unconscious, dumb Democrat voter in San Francisco is saying, "Oh, that's terrible. The man from killed that girl on the wharf. That's not good." But them right-wingers are going to exploit it against all Mexicans. It's that Donald Trump who really is the bad guy. The reporters were nicer to this murderer than they are to Donald Trump. And let me tell you something else. They're nicer to this illegal alien murderer than they were to me. You don't know this, and I'm not going to make it about me. It's too easy to do, because I've been on this topic since I began in radio. One book after another, I've talked about the alien invasion. One book after another, I've talked about the war on our borders. But the fact of the matter is, when I was on another local station in San Francisco, the mobs, stirred up by La Raza and the other hate groups, had a mob of illegal Mexicans and Central Americans outside the radio station demanding that I be fired, because all I did say was, no, they're not dreamers and they don't belong in my country. They're here illegally. That was enough for them to demand I be fired. So don't think I haven't been on the front lines of this war for a long time, but what good has it done? So who is to blame for the killing of this woman, the murder of this woman? There's a lot of blame to go around, and we're going to play things for you, and you'll decide who's to blame. This is in Gavin Newsom's backyard. Gavin Newsom is no longer mayor, but Gavin Newsom was once mayor, and Gavin Newsom boasted about this being a sanctuary city, and we have that for you on tape. Nancy Pelosi, I'm surprised she hasn't gone to the prison to wash the blood off Sanchez's hands. After all, she washed the filth off the feet of the children who were brought in last summer. Wasn't she the one washing their feet? Why doesn't she go to the jailhouse and wash the blood off Lopez Sanchez's hands? Why doesn't Dianne Feinstein take some credit for this murder? Why doesn't the district attorney take some credit for this murder? There's a lot of blame to go around, by the way. And if you think San Francisco is the only sanctuary city, I'll have a list of all major sanctuary cities for you. And there's a reason that these cities, Anchorage, Alaska, Fairbanks, Alaska, Chandler, Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, Fresno, California, Los Angeles, California, San Diego, San Francisco. I'll list all of them for you. Do you know why they have made their cities sanctuary cities? Do you think the cynical, corrupt politicians who are robbing the treasuries blind in these cities give a damn about illegal aliens? It's because the tax-paying citizens hate their guts. The tax-paying citizens know that they're corrupt, no-good gangsters, and they wouldn't vote for them. So by bringing in millions upon millions of illegal aliens, the illiberals are all kept in power by non-citizen voters. Do you get that? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? If it was not for the illegal alien voter population in San Francisco, we would not have this corrupt regime running San Francisco. Was it not for the illegal alien voter population in California, we would not have this corrupt government running the state out of Sacramento.